7:02 p.m. We'll call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. Note this meeting is being recorded for live broadcast and televised replay by Bourne TV. If anyone is audio or visual recording, please acknowledge it at this time. Seeing none. Use of flash photography during Finance Committee meetings is prohibited. The Zoom meeting ID is 844-6523-8259, and the Zoom meeting password is FinCom, all caps FINCOM. Okay, our member Wayne Sampson is excused. Is there any public comment for non-agenda items? Looks like none. We need a clerk. Renee Gratis, our former clerk, resigned. Oh, I'd like to introduce, I think everyone's already here, but our newest member, Carla Emmons.
Hey.
This is, I think you met, so this is Liz Hartsgrove, our Assistant Town Administrator.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You too.
So is there any volunteer or nominations for clerk? The clerk's responsibilities are not very much. It's to check the minutes, mostly checking the minutes and stand by in case the rest of us are not here. All right, maybe Wayne will want to do this when he comes back.
I'd volunteer, but just maybe after the first meeting. Can I do it like?
Yeah, I think the position will still be open.
Okay. Just not the first day.
Okay, are there any reserve fund transfer requests?
There are none tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So next is early budget review, fiscal year 25 capital projects.
Thank you. So I know the department heads are in the room with you who are requesting capital projects for the May town meeting. And I'll turn it over to them in just a second. But I want to, for the committee's sake, I want to let you know that with this slate of projects, I'm recommending $4,367,200 of capital investments for FY25. And the funding breakdown for those projects are $978,200 from free cash, $2.1 million in borrowing, $225,000 from waterways, and $1,640,000 from retained earnings. From the majority of that is from ISWIM, and $52,000 of that is from sewer. So that's how the funding breaks down. And the departments, Mr. Chairman, if you want to just have them go through their projects with you, and then we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So schools is first on their agenda.
Thank you, everyone. Jordan Geis, Bourne Public Schools, Director of Business Services. We have two capital requests for FY25. The first is for the removal and replacement of the compressor in the York chiller at Bourne Middle School that failed. I got one quote for just over $35,000. The capital request is for $40,000. The chiller provides air conditioning to some areas of the middle school. Any questions?
Did you get more than one quote?
I have not yet, no.
Not yet? Okay.
The second request is for the removal and replacement of the two rotating biological contactors, or RBCs, at the wastewater treatment plant, and the installation of two RBC covers. The RBCs are an essential component of the treatment facility and have reached the end of their useful life. The total amount requested for this project is $2.1 million, which includes roughly $190,000 in contingency. There are no other repairs for the wastewater treatment plant on our 5-year plan at this time.
Any questions or comments?
After spending the 2.1 million and nothing due for the next 5 years, how long do you anticipate that wastewater system lasting?
When these repairs are done and some of the other work that's being done that's on schedule for this summer, I think the next part of the improvement plan that the Beta Group put together in 2018 is 7 years or 8 years down the road, but it's pretty minor. So this is an ongoing improvement plan that was created.
Okay. No, that's, okay. So you think another 7 years then? Okay.
Any more questions or comments for the school department? All right, thank you, Mr. Geis.
Thank you.
No, he's having trouble logging on still.
All right, next, police department.
Good evening, Brandy Sib, Chief of Police. Appreciate you having me today. Also with me is Officer Parsons, if you have any specific questions regarding our fleet. He's our fleet manager. So the first request we have, we'll do is the rifles. So this is a request for replacement addition to our inventory of rifles. So our rifles are currently upwards of, they're all over 10 years old. Some are upwards of 20 years old. Most of them are, some of them have been cobbled from items that have been seized or otherwise obtained by the department. Most of them have bent barrels or other maintenance issues. And so I'm requesting $147,900 for a total of 30 rifles. These are rifles for use for have officers prepared for active shooter incidents, response to, and that'd be in responses in the schools, office places. It's also for training and other uses. This would be a fully outfitted rifle that has sling mount, suppressor, optics, light, backup sight, and the spare magazines. It would also include 12 storage containers for the cruisers. We currently have enough for for most of our new fleet, but there's 12 cruisers that still have an old style of rifle storage in them that's not very safe for us to continue deploying these with. I'd be able to answer any questions you may have on these.
How long do you expect those rifles to last before they'd be replaced?
I expect a good estimate is about 10 years, and then that's with proper maintenance and the whatnot. Thank you.
Seems like a reasonable price.
Thank you. Our second request is for additional ATV and a replacement of ATV. So currently we have 2 ATVs in the department that we use for any responses on the beaches or any in the town forest or any other place that a cruiser wouldn't quite fit. Both of those ATVs are quite old. One of them was donated to us by the Patrolmen's Association many years ago, and it's more like a sports style ATV. It's not really designed for beaches. So that one would be removed from service and it would be available to other departments, or it could be traded in for credit. And then we would be purchasing 2 new ones. So this would now give us a total of 3 ATVs for us to be able to respond. The beaches have been quite the popular area in the summer here, especially around 4th of July, and they are quite the useful tool to be able to keep the crowds under control. So this would be $35,000 that we are requesting. At that, they're estimating, based upon the quotes we have, is about $10,000 per ATV. And then there would also be a ATV trailer that would be able to transport 2 ATVs at a time. That trailer is estimated at $4,500. And then there's some slight upfit that would be needed for these ATVs to the tune of $5,000 for the upfit and miscellaneous charges. Any questions on those?
Sorry, I have a question. And is that included in the 35K?
Yep, 35K is it includes the ATVs, the ATV trailer, the upfit of both the trailer and the ATVs.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Where would you store these trailers?
So we have-
At the ATVs?
Yep, so we have an outbuilding on our property that is 2 garage bays, and then there's another half bay, and that's where we currently house the 2, and that's where we would be housing them.
Okay, so you wouldn't have like one place and one for the Pecasset Monument Beach side and then one for the Sagamore side?
No, we don't have any other, we only have the one police facility, and we would deploy those from the station.
Okay.
That actually is the better use for us.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then the last request is for our annual vehicle replacement. And so that is, the request is for $434,800. That is for a total of 3 patrol cruisers, 1 patrol pickup, and 1 admin/detective vehicle. That's an unmarked vehicle. The patrol pickup is, what do we have for the age on that one, Officer Parsons?
I believe that's a 2017, or
No.
no, correction on that.
The work on the date on that one, but the mileage is at about 40,000 miles, but it's an older vehicle that has rot all underneath it, so it's not very safe for our use for patrol purposes. It may have use elsewhere in town. I've already had some requests from other departments, so that would be useful to the other departments, or it could be traded in. And the 3 patrol cruisers, all of these vehicles will be completely upfit with all the equipment that we need for them. Back in, maybe dated myself, 3-4 cycles ago, we used to be able to move equipment from one vehicle to another. It's not, with the way these companies, the manufacturers change their models from year to year, there's always a slight change in the width or the length, and it doesn't transfer. So this is all new equipment from one vehicle to the other, and it would include all the upfit and everything else needed to make them fully operational.
I have a question. Were these anticipated? This is part of our regular schedule, correct?
This is part of our regular schedule.
Yeah.
We're on a 5 vehicle schedule, and hopefully, as we were with COVID, we slowed things down with our replacements. We're trying to get caught back up after a few cycles of this. We might be able to go back down to a 4 vehicle, but I'm kind of keeping that in abeyance right now.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chris Southwood, Natural Resource Director. I have 2 capital requests tonight for FY '25. The first is to repower our Carolina skiff with a 60 horsepower engine for $15,500. There's a useful life with these engines of about 5 years on the use that we have, which is approximately 36 weeks out of the year, 5 days a week. This vessel is used for boom deployment for oil spills, emergency rescues in shallow water, to put all the marinas and ramps back into place every year, and for the shellfish propagation. There might be a possibility of some sort of turn back, but that's going to depend on the condition of the engine after it's run this spring. Any questions?
So it's not practical to rebuild them, or it may not be reliable enough?
No, not with the use these days and what it costs for even repair and maintenance. It's just astronomical now, just for anything. So new has been the way to go for feasibility and maintenance. This has been part of our 5-year capital plan from the get-go. So it is anticipated, and I do anticipate to also have this season usefulness out of it, but no matter what, probably next year will have to be replaced by the next summer.
Thank you.
And wait time to get these engines is still 4 to 6 months after putting an order in. Okay, the next request is through the Shore and Harbor Committee. This is for $225,000. This is an annual request that comes out of the waterway funds. This is for all the dredging that we do in town, any boat ramp maintenance and pier work. We all know how important it is as a waterway community to keep our navigable channels open for revenue sources for all of our marinas, our moorings, the selling of fuel, and as well as recreational activities. We currently do have 2 boat ramp projects underway with permitting and engineering, and I also believe we're on the schedule next year in the fall to do 2 more dredge projects. So if you have any questions regarding that request, I'm more than happy to answer them.
So the county dredge,
Yes.
and are we on schedule for that?
So, the county dredge, we have time of year restrictions where we can only dredge. So for the town of Bourne, it's October 15th till January 15th. And that's most of the town, so we're all fighting for spots. We finally received our 10-year comprehensive dredge permit that we'll be waiting 5 years for. And other towns have been going through this slow process, but now that we have that, we can move forward as long as we have the funds and we have the availability with the dredge.
Thanks.
And just FYI, I know the county delegates are looking into raising the rates, and it could be dramatically. So at this point, I feel comfortable that we're okay, but in the future, there's probably potentially going to be a dramatic increase. I just can't say what they're going to decide.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Good evening. Sean Feeney, Facilities Manager.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Facilities Manager.
Facilities, thank you.
So we have two capital requests before you tonight. One is for $130,000 for door upgrades and replacement throughout town. This is kind of a multi-pointed capital article. We're going to be replacing some actual doors at Station 3 that were identified in an inspection earlier this year. Faulty doors, doors that have been a little bowed, some that are broken, just need to be replaced. The building is almost 20 years old. Some of these have been having issues for years. It's just been on the back burner, so we want to bring these forward. As well as a couple doors at Fire Station 1. Around the outside of the building, there are a bunch of commercial glass doors that have probably been in place for about 30 years. It's very close to the building. They get a lot of salt and water damage from everything driving around, so they've just been deteriorated. It's time that they be replaced as well. We also want to repair, add, and replace a couple door openers for ADA access, the handicap door assisted openers in town. There are 3 at the library that are probably all over 40 years old. We need to make a couple changes and one replacement here in this building, as well as adding a few to the new police station to remain in compliance with the ADA pull test and the weight that we need for the doors. That's it for that one. Any questions?
Sorry, forgive my ignorance. Which one is Station 3?
I'm sorry, so Station 3 is fire headquarters in Sagamore currently?
Sagamore, that's the big one,
Yep. And then Station 1 is the one here in Buzzards Bay.
Buzzards Bay, okay.
Which is
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Did you talk about the elevator or no?
I haven't done that one yet.
Oh, okay.
That's our second request.
All right.
Well, no other questions, I'll move on. So we are also asking for the town hall elevator upgrades and repairs. The town hall elevator has a manufacture date of 1972. Cannot entirely nail down the actual install date for that unit, but it's served us well for over 50 years as far as its existence. It's a little bit older. It's had quite a few issues in the past couple of years as far as sticky switches, failure to call between floors, just basic love and age of maintenance issues that's showing its age. What we want to do is we want to do a full modernization of the power plant unit. Down in the basement, it still has a very antiquated relay control system. We're going to install a state-of-the-art solid-state computerized control, as well as a full carriage modernization, which basically means that the actual carriage that you ride in will be almost entirely replaced. New panels, new rollers, new switches, new doors. All of these repairs and upgrades can serve probably for estimated about 25 years from what I'm told from the elevator companies, but we've seen what we've gotten out of this one. We've gotten 50 years. We can probably expect more if needed. Any of these repairs will be able to support the building and any renovations that it has in the future going forward as well. So, any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Will those control upgrades be security related, like for active shooter situations, all that?
So
And call.
the upgrades will probably require fire recall. Right now, the elevator is so old that it does not have the medical and fire recall programming, where if the fire alarm goes off, it's supposed to go to the standard ground level floor and just remain open and unusable for anybody to call. All of that will get installed. If we do an active shooter program and protocol with the security system within the building, we would be able to tie that in.
Okay, good.
You need the recall ability of the elevator in order to tie that.
Would that be included in the price you're putting out?
It wouldn't be there because that would be the security company, and we actually haven't decided to put a active shooter protocol system
Okay.
at Town Hall yet with the security system.
But we are in the process of upgrading that and tying it into the same system that the current PD has. That was our past capital article in November. Once that's all completed, we can, as the town, we can assess a procedure if we want to do an active shooter or a lockdown scenario for the building, and then
Okay.
we can implement that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Matt Swicky, I'm the Public Works Director. Excuse me. Tonight, we have 4 projects, 3 for DPW and 1 for the Sewer Enterprise Fund. The first project is for 250, the purchase of 250 recycle and trash carts. This project was brought before town. I'm not sure if there's currently a policy change in place with the curbside collection. The purchase of these carts is to meet the additional 87 customers the curbside collection will take on. So we're buying a few extra carts. There's 250 carts will cover the new customers plus a few extra carts they have in stock. Do you have any questions?
If somebody needs to replace theirs, do you charge them for it? Or
They'll have a 10-year warranty, so right now the carts are under warranty.
Still under
Unless they
warranty?
do damage intentionally to it, but normal wear and tear is covered by the town. Any other questions? The second project is the refurbishment of the engines to 2 of the trash and recycling trucks. We're asking for $114,000. The engine is the part of the trash trucks that takes the most beating. So this will replace the engine and all the parts that go with it in hopes of adding about 5 years to the useful life of the vehicles. Questions on that one? The third project is for $35,000, and this is to replace the traffic signals and handicap crossing signals at Academy Drive and Main Street. I'm going to replace all the lights for the street, not the street lights, the traffic lights, and also the push buttons, and upgrade the crossing signals. And that's for $35,000.
we have problems with the current ones?
Yes, they were installed in around 2000, and they're leaking, and the weather is just starting to get, the rain and snow is starting to cause problems with the lights. The fourth project is for the Sewer Enterprise Fund. It's for the replacement of a 2007 F-250. We're going to replace it with a 2024 F-250. The request for that is $52,000. Any questions on that one?
Sorry, I'm really new at this. What do
So am
you,
I.
yeah. What do you use the F-250 truck for?
So the sewer department has 2 trucks. This one is used to move tools and parts. Some of our pumps are fairly big. So we have one truck that has a crane, but this is the backup truck that will also help move parts and tools around town.
Okay. Around town, not just at the
Yeah,
wastewater
it's-
treatment plant?
For all
Okay.
any place where the sewer system, all in downtown Buzzards Bay and other areas where the sewer system
Okay.
is located.
Well, you don't seem very new, Matt. You did a great job.
Thank you. Any other questions before? All
Thank you.
right, thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Daniel Barrett. I'm the General Manager of the Integrated Solid Waste Management System. I won't refer to it as the dump, which everyone would like me to do, but I'm not going to do that this evening. We have 4 projects in front of you tonight. First of all is funding and development of a new office facility. As you know, we've been through a lengthy permitting process for the last 5 years. We finally got the final permits, which allowed us to move on to the land to the south. We now know the total full footprint build-out of the facility. So we can place our buildings knowing that we won't ever have to move them. We've been in trailers for 20 years. I've been there 24 years. And that's fine. I've always been in trailers. But the full build-out of the facility will include, hopefully at the end, a transfer station that will continue ISWIM to serve its function to the town to handle its waste. If we do that, this building will last well beyond the length and life of the landfill. So that's the first one. I apologize, we don't have any numbers because we just got the permits. And it is a timely project. We started our vertical expansion, phase 9 we call it, on top of the existing landfill. It'll probably give us about 5 years to get that done. But in the meantime, we need to be excavating for the next cell. About 500,000 cubic yards of dirt needs to be moved. And that's a pretty high, pretty big project. So we need to get it started as quickly as possible. In the middle of those acreage, or in the middle of that acreage, is our current temporary office. So we'd like to move the temporary offices out and move into a building that we'll be in forever. And we think if we can hustle, we can get it done. So we contacted the contractor as soon as we had, and with the help of town administration, as soon as we had the ability to, know we could commit to the project. So we currently have a contractor working with us. They're going to give us a feasibility study, as well as a cost to build, and give us an idea of whether or not this project should move or should not move forward. We will have those numbers by town meeting, and more than likely, as soon as we get those numbers, we'll make the rounds again. We'll hit the FinCom, we'll hit capital outlay, let everybody know what we're doing. But we want to get it out in front of you now so that it is timely. Plan B, which is never a good one, but we'll just take those old trailers and move them out back somewhere and set them down temporarily until we can move forward. But we're pretty confident we can get this done.
How big are you expecting it to be?
Well, we haven't got a final footprint yet. I mean, we're still sitting down. We're also going to add a maintenance garage to the side of it. We're currently working in a maintenance garage that's getting crowded by the landfills. There's barely enough room to get the trucks between the landfill and the existing building. It was built in 1967. I mean, I give our guys a lot of credit. I mean, they're outside most of the time. The big stuff won't fit in there, so on a day like today, they're outside wrenching on bulldozers, and we like to, I'd try to get them something a little bit better if we could. So that's also in the plan.
Okay.
I think what you'll see probably is the building of the office first, as we continue to permit the land, moving forward out and back. But we will have a design for the garage. We want those two facilities obviously to be integrated.
I always have questions. If
That's-
if you're going to ask them, so I mean, we all know that there's a shelf life to the ISWM.
Correct.
So you anticipate that this new office will be able to stay there as part of the, I don't want to call it remediation, but monitoring after the closure of the facility. So will have a very long life.
Yeah, I mean, right now, and you may not know, I mean, but we just completed a massive expansion. We got 5.2 million cubic yards, which will last us a little over 20 years, depending on how the town chooses to fill it. So, that's why we kind of moved into a fixed building. There's space out there where we can't do any landfilling. Landfilling won't go on in these areas. So that's where we'll put the transfer station, or the office building, eventually the transfer station, and all the fixed things that you see out there now. The goal for our facility, or at least, my goal working with the town, is to have ISWIM continue to serve the purpose it's serving now when the landfill closes. So that's what this project is for, is to set up the infrastructure so that when we are ready, we can build a transfer station and move forward.
Okay, great.
And if the transfer station doesn't go, the town will have a building. I mean, you can always use a building, right?
I think that property will probably need to be monitored for a long time.
Correct. Any more questions on that one? Second on the list is, again, a scheduled replacement of one of our bulldozers. We have two Cat D6 low ground pressure bulldozers equipped with GPS grade control and solid waste packages. They're kind of special units. You don't buy them off the shelf. We'd like to, the price that we're asking for, or the money that we're asking for, is $620,000. Interestingly enough, they list for about $750. We're going to get about roughly $80 for a new one, or for the old one. So we will get some money back for it. Interesting, this machine will have 13,000 to 14,000 hours on it when we trade it. We like to trade them at 5. The solid waste business is the toughest business in the world on any piece of construction equipment. They'll tell you that anywhere you want to read that. We try to turn things over that work in the trash and the ash over on a 5-year period. And we can prove that. We've done it countless times where if we, for whatever reason, financial reasons or availability reasons, we have to go beyond that 5 years, you start to see failures. Give you an example, an interesting thing which I'll go over in the budget package. We'll move on here, but Caterpillar has a very nice undercarriage system. It's called a System 1. It'll last for 6 years, which is the useful life of the machine. They're very expensive. So we had to, this one was about to run out, so we decided to hold off for a year and run that machine out, run that System 1 out. So that's kind of why we held on to it a little bit longer. But, we had some issues with it last week, not major ones, but it's the telltale signs of a major one coming, so it's time for it to go. Any questions on that one?
I have a question.
Sure.
So are you talking about the 2020 CAT D6 dozer?
That's the one.
Okay. Do you add any contingency on that price?
For,
Are there extras added into that vehicle?
oh, yeah.
Piece of machinery?
Yeah, as I said, that's not
The
something
base?
that you buy off, it's
From
not
the-
something you buy off the shelf. Solid waste package includes undercarriage cover plates, and I'm not talking about, these things are like a half an inch or an inch thick. All the guards around the tracks, the track frames are all guarded. You'll see rubbish bars on the back so that the tracks don't pick things up and slam into the cab. They have rollover protection. The cabs are pressurized so the guys aren't breathing that dust and dirt all day long. Special cab filters because we handle ash.
Okay, so that's all custom, right?
Yeah,
Okay, I
Yep.
got it. Thank you.
no problem.
Any other questions, comments?
Move on to the next one. East side litter fence restoration. I've been doing this stuff a long time, nobody wants to hear that story again. But when I came here 24 years ago, they had bid out to put up a litter fence and on the entire east side, which they did. The litter fence you'll see when you drive in now on the west side, the green netting sticking up in the air, looks like golf net. That's to catch papers and keep them from going off site. It's required by DEP. Now that we're in the Phase 9 section of the landfill, we're back into the old section and we're up on top. So there's a pretty big likelihood, even though we're taking 85% ash, there's a likelihood of some trash blowing around. So this project will mark the end of the 20-year life of that fence. We've replaced a little of it, but it's in the southeast corner, out by the base. This will replace all of it. You'll have all new fence all the way around, which getting up into Phase 9 is a good thing. So we're pretty happy about that. Any questions on that one?
How much was the fence?
It's $174,000. That'll take care of it. And you've seen us, we keep extending as we move south. So the landfill for the next 5 to 6 years will be completely done. We won't have to worry about that for another 20, and then we move out and back.
So you won't take down the old one, you just
No.
extend the new extension, okay.
Yep. Yeah, and, we've been working with the same fence guy for a long time. I worked with him at previous places that I've been. Very good at what he does, and he knows the business, so we have very little trouble. You don't see the net sagging, breaking, falling down. You very seldom see it. And if you do, he's there to put them back up again. Very noticeable for DEP as well when they come in and do their inspections. They like to see that stuff up and operating. And then, last but not least, we're looking for a $60,000 investment in our closed-circuit TV system. I think the last time we invested any substantial money in that was 2005. So you can imagine we're a little antiquated. And it is a very important system. We use it every day. It monitors the scales, people coming in and out. As the landfill grows, as you might imagine, we're losing sight of certain spots around the landfill. We have blind spots, and that's not a good thing. You know, the capabilities and the bandwidth of the equipment that we have is just not sufficient to do what we need to do. So for $60,000, we're going to come in. We'll end up with 12 new cameras. Plenty of bandwidth to expand into the future. And, you know, the gentleman's telling us we're good for at least 10 years before we have to do too much to it. And that's pretty hard to say these days as technology continues to develop. Any questions on that one? Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, early budget review. Fiscal year
Thank you.
25 department operating budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just kind of to explain to the committee where things stand, the budget is still in draft form, and we are still working under assumptions for state aid numbers. We haven't received final cherry sheet numbers yet. So this is kind of our conservative estimate on state aid, and we're not, you know, if we need to make adjustments, we'll come back and show you where those are. But right now, what I'd like to do is move forward with the operating budget reviews for those departments listed on the agenda. And if you have your electronic file with you, I can give you the page numbers for each area so you can follow along. The department heads will typically talk about what might be different or changing, and rather than going line by line, but of course, we're happy to answer any questions or go into as much detail as the committee would like. The select board is scheduled to discuss the budget and possibly vote it on to you tomorrow night, except for the sewer budget. The Board of Sewer Commissioners is meeting on the 30th of January. And they'll finalize the sewer budget, and then on February 1st, we'll put together your budget books, and they'll be ready for you on February 1st. But this is kind of just gives us a little bit more time, so you're not as crunched up at the end of trying to get all of the reviews done before town meeting. So anyone who has their books, the police department budget, and the lines we're talking about are your expenditure budget reports. So if you're looking at the kind of the whole binder package of the budget, the police department budget starts on page 210-26, and the expenditure budget report is titled at the top 210 Police Department. So we're happy to walk you through the budgets line by line. And I will say, I should probably say, the salaries and wages for all of the union personnel we're in our final, FY25 is the final year of that 3-year CBA. So we have certainty on the salaries and wage increases for FY '25. All of the union contracts will be open again for renegotiation starting in FY '26.
You got the floor.
Thank you for having me again. So I will, like, as Marlene said, I will start going down line by line with the covering things that might be changes to. If there's no change in the line, I'd be more than happy to answer anything you have on that, but I'll skip over that unless there's a question. So department head, 5111, slight change, $3,300 increase in that. That's contractual. So that's going to be 166,500. 5112, salaries, lieutenants and sergeants. That's the salaries for both of, for our 2 lieutenants and our 8 sergeants. That is an increase of 35,200 contractual to 1,182,300. 5113, clerical administrative assistants and dispatchers. This is our line that covers our 2 records clerks, payroll clerks. It also covers the assistant to the chief, and it covers our 4 dispatchers and our 1 dispatch lead. So dispatch lead is a new position that was added a few months back, and that is covered in this budget. That would be an increase of $26,465 to $459,500. One thing about this line is part of the salaries from this line is funded from a E911, so a dispatch 911 grant that we receive. Generally, we allocate $50,000 from that grant towards this line. This year, we'll be allocating $80,700. I'm able to do that because the other portion of that grant covers equipment for the building, specifically our MDTs for our cruisers. They look like they're in pretty good repair for right now, so I believe I can get request less MDTs this year and be able to cover us without any impact to the department. 5115, police officers. That's an increase of 123,525, all contractual, to just shy of 3 million, so 2,996,300. No change to summer patrolman. Summer patrolman is our community service officers that do the ticketing for the beaches. They were quite useful this last summer. 5124, that's our clothing cleaning allowance. It's a reduction of 2,000, but you'll see that later on. So this is the portion of the clothing and cleaning that goes into that officer gets in a stipend. We have an option where officers can elect either a stipend or they can use a purchase order at the stores. Some of them elect the stipend, some of them elect the stores. So this year that changed slightly for who elected what. So the 2,000 you'll see in our other clothing line, that is what would be paid for at the stores. 5130, overtime wages. That's an increase of $25,000 in that line to $525,000. This is a line that we historically overspend, where we've been understaffed for some time. We're getting close to being fully staffed, but even with that, it's the training up of those officers that are coming on. So even for the first year of being fully staffed, I'd still anticipate this overtime getting hit pretty good as we train those officers coming on. We are in that process right now. 5141, longevity. It's increased contractual of 1,300.
I'm sorry, can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
So your overtime wages, you spent $809,000 in 2023,
Correct.
but you only expect $375 in 2024?
So the way this has been budgeted in the past is with being understaffed, we've been able to, even though we go red on this particular line, we fund it with unfilled positions.
Okay.
So that as we start getting into filled positions, we'll have less of a gap there. But hopefully the overtime will go down a little bit, but we will have to see, as we have this year, this $25,000 increase. We're just gonna have to keep monitoring that, and we've always worked very well with the town administrator and finance with monitoring that and allocating properly.
Okay.
Steve, if I can interrupt for a second, overtime for both police and fire, we do our best to budget, but obviously they have to attend to what comes up. So it is not unusual at the year end. You'll see us make adjustments depending on what actually happened throughout a year.
Any other questions on overtime?
Thank you.
So we did longevity, so 5142 differential pay. This covers our night differential, but it's, the title's a little misleading. It also covers our FTO compensation. The FTO officers are compensated a stipend for when their FTO is field training officer, so as we're training people. It also covers, when I'm on vacation, the OIC duties, whoever is covering those duties, they get increase in their salary. And it also covers, part of our contractual changes this time is it covers repayment of AT days when they go over. There's a maximum AT days, so supervisors AT day is a holiday day. So supervisors now have a max of 7 days, patrolmen have a max of 10 days. When they go over that max, they get paid out on that. So this all comes from this one line, and because of those contractual changes and other increases in the department, that's where that $10,000 comes to a total of $95,000. No change on accumulated time. We haven't used that line for some time. That's 5143, 5144. Holiday pay, dispatchers, no change on that line, 3,500. That brings us, that's it for salary. Now we're into services, starting with 5240, R&M buildings and grounds. There's an increase in here in $2,500. This is to account for increased costs related to repairs and contracts on the building. So on 5240, that covers the building warranty. We're now getting into the phase where things that were under warranty are no longer under warranty, so we're starting to have an increase in the cost that we once never had. Our old building, you'll notice the costs on this for 175 Main Street were significantly less for building maintenance. 5240, R&M autos, no change on that one. This is $5,000. That's for insurance deductibles. We've been pretty good with managing that amount. No change on 5246 or 5275. No change on 5301 medical. Actually, 5301. That's a increase of $3,000. That's to cover the increased cost of medical costs. This covers our new employee fitness for duty, new employee exams, our fitness for duty exams when officers injured, and those costs have gone up. 5303, it's not used. 5304, no change on that one. 5305, services data processing. This line is our catch-all for IT-related services. It also includes our security system costs, our record management system, and any of the software licenses we have in the building, internet services. And there has been our record management software, there's been a significant increase in that cost in the last few years. We are looking at a replacement of that because it's getting towards end of life. You'll notice that's on our 5-year plan. It will be a hefty cost that we'll have to look at. But it is, I think, now 25 years old, the product we've been using, and it is going to be time for us to move on at some point with that. Any questions on the increase on that one? 5307, professional development. This is a line that we've been increasing over the past few years because it was historically underfunded. This is what covers the cost of training our officers, sending them to registration fees, also for contractual obligations for paying for meals when they're out of town. We have a young department, and it's extremely important as we start facing some retirements that I ensure they are trained and ready to take over these supervisory roles, and making sure they're well-rounded and well-trained is key to making sure that we have a smooth transfer as those retirements start. 5313, we have a reduction of $100. That's for insect control in the building. No change on 5315. 5321, services accreditation. We are working towards becoming an accredited department. Part of that is membership in the Massachusetts accreditation. They have had an increase in their dues, which they've also increased the services they provide as part of that. 5340, communications telephone. This line covers our phone system for our building, our electronic fax system, our elevator circuits, our radio circuits, our cell phones, our MDTs, our cruiser, which is the laptops in the cars, and that has those service contracts and services have gone up this year. One of which is was part of the original building construction, and now we have to pay for that to be license renewed. So that's an increase of $8,500 on that line. Postage, no change on that one. 5342, printing, slight increase on that one for about $1,000. This is a line that we use to pay for our parking tickets and any other printed items. Last year, our entire printing budget went towards parking tickets. One thing we are looking towards, and I think we've had some successful conversations on it, is switching to an e-ticketing platform. At the current cost, 3,000 tickets cost $3,000. That's fairly expensive when it comes to, we believe we can reduce those costs, and that way we won't have to keep on bumping this up. No change on advertising, and that brings us into our supply line of 5400 series. 5420, no change. 5435, no change. Same with 5487 and 5539. Brings us to 5541, data processing supplies equipment. This is an increase of $1,000, and this falls into line of those objects we purchased with the new building that are starting to, so this would cover the new computers we purchased. Some of those are starting to age out of their warranty, and as we have to replace them, we're gonna have increased costs there. 5580, other supplies books, slight increase there. These are legal books, law books for the officers to use in the field, and with the need for increased training, increased costs on those books. 5585, clothing allowance. This is that $2,000 reduction you saw earlier, applied to the clothing allowance line. 5594, other supplies operational. So this is our general line for supplies for all operational items. This is items such as evidence packaging supplies, ammunition. This is a huge portion of this one is ammunition for the department. There's been a significant increase in cost related to that. It's now ammunition is now no longer part of the state bid, so we have to keep an eye on that as to if we cross it over that threshold, that would make us have to go out to bid. It's also extremely difficult to get ammunition. Taser cartridges are part of this, and anything from prisoner blanket cleaning to anything that would be tied to an operational need for the department. And then we're into 5700, which is our travel, no change there. On 10, 5720, no change. 5730. This is general dues for all the various organizations the department has memberships with. We review this every year to make sure they're all still relevant and we're using them. The dues on many of these things increase slightly on some of them, so we have a $1,000 increase for that line. And then that's the end of our budget. Are there any questions I can answer?
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, the next budget for DNR is on page 295-36 of your binder.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know, that's a good question. I didn't have that up, so.
Hello again,
Hi.
Chris Elton, Natural Resource Director. Just as the town administrator and Chief ESIP explained, I have quite a long budget, and I can go through it line by line for no increases, and I will go over any cost increases as well. And if we'd like to go page by page, if you have any questions at the end of every page, I can go from there. So starting with the first three line items from the Department of Natural Resources, these are all contractual increases to the director's salary, clerical, and the 4 full-time natural resource officers. There is no increase to the temporarily Hourly wages for the clerical seasonal staff, no increase to the overtime. There is no increase to the holiday pay. There is a $650 reduction to longevity for the personnel due to the fact of recent retirements. There is no increase to the energy heating oil purchase. There is a $500 reduction to the repair and maintenance of the buildings and grounds. That is related to the three-bay garage of the DNR vehicles and supplies. There is no increase to the repair and maintenance of our light trucks. There is no increase to the services and consultants. I do not have an increase to the services and accreditation. I am requesting a $500 increase to the communications and printing. This is the cost associated to printing the 6,000 beach stickers annually. Believe it or not, last year was the first time we ever sold out and had to order more, thanks to the PD's efforts. Next, I am not asking for any increase regarding communication and advertising. So that is page 1 of my first sheet. Does anyone have any specific questions about any items that might or might not have increases? Okay. Going to the cell phone purchase of services. This is going to be a reduction of $4,750 out of our budget, and it's going to be consolidated into another town line item budget. I'm not sure which one it's going into, but I'm sure the town administrator or finance might have that answer for you.
Yes, so Chris, your cell phones, all of your staff cell phones are being moved to the town-wide non-departmental telephone account. So rather than the department trying to budget for those individually, those are being consolidated.
Great, thank you. My next increase is for $500 for the office supplies. This is ink and toner cartridges, filing supplies, envelopes, paper, and miscellaneous office supplies. These are just basic cost increases based on the amount we're using now. There is no line increase regarding building and equipment supplies. No line increase regarding building equipment supplies, tools. Then what else have I got? Then I'm going down to a $250 increase for vehicle supplies. So this is parts in our department. So these are the miscellaneous parts for our 4 departmental vehicles, windshield wiper blades, fluids, lubricants, things like that. We try to do the small stuff in our garage, so we don't have to put it on DPW and lose a truck for a day. It seems to work for both ends, and it hasn't been an issue at all. Next line item is uniforms, no increase. Protective clothing, no increase. Clothing allowance, no increase. And the next increase would be $5,420 on the wages. This is for our shellfish technician as well as our seasonal shellfish assistant. The next line item is repair and maintenance for the town, no increase. A lot of these repair and maintenance line items that I have multiple ones basically because we have different parts of my budget that relate specifically to the DNR itself, Taylor's Point Marina, Monument Beach Marina. So you'll see a lot of the same line items, so to speak, just in case you have any questions. So we have different things going on at each one for each building. The next line item is another repair and maintenance equipment for an increase of $2,500. This is for the maintenance, repair, and costs for our 25-foot Parker Patrol boat with the twin engines, the repair and maintenance of our 21-foot Carolina skiff, the annual replacement of water pumps, thermostats, zincs, engines, electric repairs, radio, propellers, batteries, shrink wrap, etc. The next line item, no increase, would be repair and maintenance of town floats and docks and gangways. Next line item is communications for printing, no increase. Next line item is repair and maintenance floats, docks, ramps, no increase. That would be page 2 for me. If there's any questions regarding anything I've gone through on that page. Okay. Page 3, building equipment supplies. I'm asking for a $50 increase from $450 to $500. This is just paint for the annual painting of the inside and the outside of the building at Monument Beach, including the bathrooms there as well. The next line item for an increase is $2,000. This is the vehicle supply gasoline. This is the fuel for the patrol boat and the whaler. based on just usage now and how much activity is going on in the water, as well as emergency services. We've seen necessity of having boat in the water for off hours as well, and that is just the cost of us being out there for emergency services. Next line item, no increase is vehicle supplies. Next line item, public works supplies, no increase. Uniform supplies, no increase. Protective clothing, no increase. Dues, no increase. And wages, this is a $2,556 increase. I'm sorry, I must have gone backwards on one of them. So this is for the shellfish propagation one. The other original one, I'm sorry if I missed that one. My memos are so small, sometimes it's hard to read them. The other one was the increase for the harbor master, the seasonal patrol boat. I'm sorry about that. So if you're confused about that one, I can go back on it.
Nope.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
Okay, next line item, repair and maintenance, no increase. Next line item, $800 increase from 200 to 1,000. This is repair and maintenance by other. So these are the miscellaneous parts for the upwellers where we grow the shellfish. We need to replace the plastic silos. This is the first time we've had to do it in 8 years, and that's just the cost that it's for this year to do it is another $800. Next line item, services for beatings, no increase. Next line item, communications, no increase. Office supplies, no increase. Building equipment supplies, no increase. Public works supplies, no increase. Uniform, no increase. Protective clothing, no increase. Dues, no increase. Contracted services, no increase. And general office supplies, no increase. All right, so that's that page. Okay, infectious disease control, no increase. Protective clothing, no increase. Miscellaneous supplies, no increase. Hourly wage, no increase. Repair and maintenance, I'm asking for a $300 increase from $2,200 to $2,500. This is just maintenance of the shoreline pump out stations. Small repairs, but it's just the cost of parts these days. Next line item with an increase is repair and maintenance, $1,500 going from $8,500 to $10,000. So this is repair and maintenance of our 2 pump out boats regarding the maintenance, shrink wrap, water pumps, thermostats. A lot of these things have to be done annually, winterizing, shrink wrap, and just past expenditures. And just so you know, out of our pump out program for the boat maintenance for these, the pump out operators' wages, and the disposal of the septage that go to the marinas, we do get a $20,000 reimbursement annually from the State Clean Vessel Act. That's the maximum allowed you can get, but at least we do get that back. The next increase is $1,000 from $8,000 to $9,000 for services. This is the waste removal I was just discussing, the septage that we haul out of the boats. Last year, the 2 pump out boats, I believe, disposed of approximately 43,000 gallons. And this is just the disposal. So that's just also, so there's a tank at Kingman Marina, as well as Parker's Boatyard. And these are also included the United portable toilets.
At Monument Beach, yeah.
Yep, and throughout the town.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay, custodial supplies, no increase. Vehicle supply, no increase. Vehicle supply, no increase. Vehicle supply, no increase. Uniforms, no increase. Two-way devices, no increase. Miscellaneous supplies, no increase. Page 3. Halfway there. Next line item, repair and maintenance and grounds, no increase. Floats, no increase. Miscellaneous equipment, no increase. $4,021 increase for salary and laborers. This is contractual for the marina manager. Hourly wages, personnel, increase of $5,000. This is the seasonal marina attendants at Taylor's Point. Between Taylor's Point and Monument Beach, there's approximately 24 hired seasonals annually. Just so you know.
Do you do lifeguards too? Is that part of?
Lifeguards?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Not you, yeah, okay.
Lifeguards will be in the recreation budget.
Thank you.
Let's see, what do we got? Repair and maintenance, grounds, no increase. I am asking for $1,500 increase on the repair and maintenance of equipment from $4,500 to $6,000. These are for the new replacements of the fuel lines at the marina. It also includes the maintenance of the water heater, furnace, and winterization, and putting the marina back together. There's a $1,000 reduction in float, stocks, and ramp repairs this year for that specific marina. Contracted services, no increases. Banking services, I am requesting a $3,000 increase from $8,000 to $11,000. This is the credit card processing fees for the purchase of gasoline and transient rental sales. Communications, here's another reduction that's going to be, as the
Sorry, I'm
town
sorry.
administrator said.
Is that increase due to because you're having increased revenue, or is
Yeah.
the bank charging you more?
It's the banking fees.
Banking fee, so your revenue is increasing?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
The next is the reduction of the telephone communications, as the town administrator explained previously. No increase on communications and printings in the next line item. No increase in custodial supplies. No increase in vehicle supply. No increase in uniform. $1,000 increase in operational supplies from $4,500 to $5,600. This is items for resale at the marina store. This is ice, boat soap, oil, soda, candy, water, deck lines, etc. And no increase regarding miscellaneous supplies. Next page, I'm requesting a $2,500 increase from $29,500 to $32,000. These are the hourly wages. This is the seasonal marina attendants at Monument Beach. A $100 increase for other fuels and energy from $400 to $500. This is the propane for the hot water at the marina bathrooms and showers at Monument Beach. The next line item, an increase of $2,000 from $3,000 to $5,000. Building and grounds purchase. This is replacing the fuel lines at the other marina, which also include, as we discussed before, inspectional services, fire extinguishers, relocking the buildings. Next line item for an increase is maintenance and equipment from $1,400 to $2,000. And this is the maintenance and repair of parking lot lights, and redoing the locks with 120 keys, because the slip holders all get a key to use the private bathrooms down there, so we have to do that annually. The next line item is repair and maintenance floats and docks. This is a $1,000 decrease. Next line item, contracted services, $4,000 increase. This is the annual maintenance, 3-year inspection of the 42 town-owned marina, moorings at the marina, credit card processing fee, marina surveillance, and the cable and internet services. So that's all at Monument Beach. Telephone service, no increase. Office supplies, no increase. Building supply, no increase. Building supply, no increase. Custodial supply, $150 increase from $700 to $850. This is the soap, toilet paper, paper towels, gloves, mops, brushes, etc. at Monument Beach. A $24,000 increase for fuel. This is going from $96,000 to $120,000. So this is the fuel for resale at the marina. No increase on uniform. $250 increase on operational supplies from $1,500 to $1,750. These are miscellaneous tools, batteries, dewatering pumps, spare mooring tackle, etc. And one other line item is no increase regarding miscellaneous supplies. Sorry.
You're very quick. Right. Any questions? Looks like none. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, iSwim is at the back of your binder. It's on page 439-8 in the enterprise section. And it's entitled landfill at the top.
Thank you.
I think I'll try to do this as quickly and painlessly as possible. I'm going to try to focus on the accounts that did change. We'll take a look at increases as well as a few decreases. and then some that just moved around. As most of the department heads have mentioned, like most of the department heads, our payroll is contractually driven. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. One thing I would like to point out is that, we have a pretty good crew up there. A lot of those guys have been around a while. You look at the increases and you'll notice they're 2.5%. That was the contractual increase for this year. So that means that most of those guys have been here, over that time. They've maxed out, so they got a 2.5% increase. That was the COLA this year. I always like to point that out. It's a good group of guys up there. I'll start right out on the administrative part. Rentals, and mine is very small as well. We're going to look at 5275. That's going to increase. That's the rental of our temporary trailers, miscellaneous equipment purchases. We're currently under contract with those folks. They didn't want to renew the last time around, and they kind of got us. They know they do. So we're looking at talking to them again this year. We just may say we've had enough and yank them out, put something else in there. We'll live in the salt shed if we have to. Just got to get rid of those temporary trailers. They're just not working out that well for us. A couple of things that have moved around. You'll notice auditing, 25,000. That was zeroed out last year. That money was put into host community fee. Host community fees is what we pay the town for each ton of trash that comes across the gate. We've been doing very well lately with our incoming tonnage, so that continues to grow. That's a good thing. I won't go past the things that didn't change unless you want me to. If you see something on that page that gives you a question, let me know. Looking down a little bit further, 5306, banking services, like DNR Chief Chris Southwood had mentioned, during COVID, we went no cash. So we went all credit cards and checks. And because of that, our service fees are going up quite a bit. And I know the finance department, we've been working with them, and they're out there shaking the trees to find a better deal for us. I think we've got one. We just need to get a little bit of time to negotiate it. The finance department, they're pretty busy most of the time, so they've done a great job of finding something for us to help us out. It is a pretty sizable increase. It has a $120,000 budget, but I think last year we spent like $147,000. So that's a pretty sizable amount of money. We'd like to see that move down, and I think we will. You shoot down to 5316 bond prep. That was X'd out as well. We don't do that. The accounting department took that back, and we took that extra money out of our budget and put it into salvage removal. We'll get to that one pretty quick. A whole bunch of stuff in the administrative side of the budget didn't change. We're very happy about that. One that did, insurance, let me explain that a little bit. That's our additional environmental insurance. We carry $5 million policy beyond what the town has. And we've, over the years, through the work of the finance department, especially recently, those folks have realized we can spend our money and use it better. We don't capitalize a lot of things. We pay cash for everything we can. Our insurance policy was $75,000 up front. With the onslaught of PFAS and all that goes along with it, for those of you that are familiar with it, we have to deal with it as well. The PFAS was covered on our last policy. I don't think it will be on this one. And I think our price is probably going to go up a little bit. We're in contact with our agent. She does a fantastic job for us. We're anticipating this year, it comes up this year, this April, we're anticipating spending, I think we budgeted $96 million for it, or sorry, $96,000 for it. And I put $40,000 in for FY25 just to cover in case something goes wrong there. We have an opportunity to finance it, because we can finance it. We financed it in the past. but we'll save quite a bit of money if we don't. So that's a good one. That's a good call.
What happens with the PFAS, though? I mean, isn't that a good thing to have on our insurance?
It is, absolutely. We'll fight to get it, but the last time we went out, I think we had 4 bidders, 4 takers, and only one of them covered it. It was one that we'd already had. And it didn't sound like they were gonna cover it this time. They might, but they may not. So we're not really counting on it. If you can get it, you'll get it. I mean, it's not a matter of whether or not, I guess if you have enough money, you can get anything, but, you know, Lloyd's would love to see us coming, but, you know, when the lack of regulations in the regulatory environment right now, there's no sense in getting it because you don't know what the regulatory limit's gonna be. So until we get that, there'll be a lot of changes once that regulatory edict comes down, lets us know what we have to do. You'll notice hazardous waste contract. That's section 30, the hazardous waste section 5,757,950. We went up 5,000 in that. We saw an increase last year of about 30%, and the person that runs that for the county does a fantastic job. She keeps us up to date on what she thinks is going to happen. So she was pretty close last year, and she's close again this year. That pays for emptying out the hazmat sheds at Dorothy's. People bring, you know, inadvertently happen to bring in hazardous material. We have to keep it in a hazardous waste shed, and we have the contractor come in and pick it up a couple times a year. We don't get that much of it. And then we pay for 4 household hazardous waste days. Mashpee, Sandwich, Falmouth, and us on the Upper Cape all participate. Bourne has the household hazardous waste day in October every year. We're the last town to have it. We pay a little bit for the other 3. Not a lot of people from Bourne head down there to the other towns to go there. But we get a pretty good crowd when we have it in October. We also do paper shredding for the residents as well. And next, energy and electricity. Our electric bill, we anticipate will go up. We're converting a lot of our big pumps over to electricity from diesel, and we just did that, as a matter of fact. Our last capital budget, we had 2 brand-new electric pumps put in and installed. So we anticipate, as the facility grows, that electric bill's gonna go up. And as we know, electric rates are going up pretty hefty at this time anyway. So it's a $3,000 increase, 4% over top. Again, we're gonna go back and talk about heavy equipment. You'll notice that I put in for an $80,000 increase on a $90,000 budget. I'll go back to the bulldozers with the tracks. This is a new phenomenon. I've been doing this for 40 years. This is a new phenomenon. The System 1 track that I talked about was about 65 to 70,000 to replace. Just went to 120. But it pays for itself because we get the extended life out of it. It'll last the life of the machine, and we like it. It pays for itself. I guess I'm looking at putting that in. We only buy one of those like once every 5 or 6 years. So I'm not going to budget that every year. I'll put that in as a separate item. And I'll talk to the town administrator. She may want to do something different. She may want to put it on capital. I don't know. It's a wear part. It's like tires. That's the tracks on the machine. So that's why you're seeing 80,000 there. We got one coming up in 2025. Now we'll get to the heavy hitters. Our other contracted services, 5,200, 5,294. You'll see a $700,000 increase in that. We went from 4.25 million last year to 4.95 million this year. Reason being is wastewater. That's one of our nemesis. Very difficult to get rid of the water, as you all well know, including PFAS and a few other things. Our water is unique, and we need to move it. You can't have it sitting on top of the liner. You'll see the two big blue storage tanks that we have up there. It's been an ongoing battle for all landfill facilities, not just us. We do tend to do things a little bit differently. We looked around a little bit to see where we could maybe go in volume. We move a lot of water, and as it turned out, we found a home down in Passaic, New Jersey. The facility does 400 million gallons of wastewater a day. So we're just a drop in the hat to them. We went down there, visited the facility. It's absolutely amazing. It really is. It's quite a place. We felt a lot better, something that I hadn't seen professionally in a long time. They said, yeah, we want to have you guys down, but we want to come up and see your facility. We want to go through your safety records. We want to go through your environmental records and any type of environmental issues that you have. So I was happy to hear that. They came up. Very good relationship with those folks. We had to get it there. Rails, what do you say other than it's a mess? It's really not reliable. We're not near a track siding right now, so it's a little difficult for us to depend on that. We need to move with some consistency. We have local routes that we've always relied on, but as the regulations clamp down and as the concentrations in our wastewater go up, the local folks, they may or may not want to see us. We can't have that. We got to be able to move. So what we ended up doing was we put together a deal with the Passaic, New Jersey Water Authority and 41 North Shipping. We have a barge and a tugboat pulling wastewater from New Bedford down to Passaic, New Jersey. In fact, he's on the road right now. I think he's docking up and pumping off. A little out of the box, a lot of people that I've worked with for a lot of years say, what are you doing? But I'll tell you what, we got a home. Another reason for that is as we go on the vertical expansion, I've done a few of these in my career, they can be tricky. What you're relying on is the wastewater percolating through the existing landfill and into the existing leachate collection system, wastewater collection system. It'll do it. But if you get a winter like we're having right now, we just started in there, so we can control it fairly easily. But if we have a pretty good sized section open, we got to be able to move that water. We got to move it quick. I know Asa was moved quite a bit of water last week, and just to be able to have the ability to do that is very good for us.
200,000 gallons being moved in over the course of a holiday weekend. That's how valuable that barge is. To be able to move that kind of volume in short notice keeps us in compliance. It's a good thing.
Very good. And as I said, as we continue growing on Phase 9, we're going to have that water potential there. We need to be able to back it up. We made a successful contract with these folks, and we're going to see how it goes. We're the first ones to do it, and a lot of people are watching us. Kind of like PFAS removal and hydrogen sulfide handling and a few other things we do. So that's our biggest one, 700,000. Next one is $54.95 or $52.95. I'm sorry. Salvage removal. This is mattresses, waistband items. The largest constituent in this line is single stream recycling. That accounts for. We knocked it up to 950,000. We were at 870,000 last year, and we spent I think it was 886,000. We're, I won't say we're a failure of our own success or however that line goes. We're very successful. Mr. Goddard and his efforts, collecting mattresses, clean drywall, any of the things that can go out, textiles, gypsum, waistband items, CRTs, lead acid batteries, leaves, yard waste, tires, refrigerant removal, mattresses, gypsum, wallboard, textiles, including shredding event every year. I have a list of what is in that account. We moved 333 additional mattresses. see if I can find that, because it was pretty interesting, when you break it down. Need a bigger desk. This account grew $67,000 year to year. Mattress cost, mattresses alone, $76,000. Mattress cost year to year went up $20,000, almost $21,000. And these are good things, I'm not complaining. You know, they're not going into the side road or getting lost somewhere. This fiscal year, we processed 3,317 mattresses. Increase in mattresses year to year, we picked up another 889 mattresses. So, you know, Phil Goddard, I always yell at him because he costs us a lot of money, but that's a good job. That is something to look forward to, especially, you know, the town of Bourne gets to tell people, hey, you know, we're not over here doing nothing. We're working for the region and for the community. So those two lines alone take up $880,000 of our budget increase. We'll get to that in a second. Vehicle oil and lube went up $5,000 as the machines get newer, they get a little bit more technical, and Caterpillar within themselves will change the oil from one machine to another. So we have to keep up with that expense. We went up a little bit in our clothing allowance. Right now, we're at 23 employees, fully out, let's say full build out, but at full staff, we're at 28 people. So we're 5 people short right now. We're not short, but with the expansion, we anticipate that we'll be employing more people. We have a lot of dirt to move and a lot of business to get done. We've been kind of slow the last couple of years because of, you know, not being able to expand. We do a lot of our own construction, do all our own utility work, all our own maintenance and mechanics. We run a sewer system with 2 tanks. We run a gas collection and flare system. So we're pretty busy. Once we get fully staffed, I look for those expenses to go up a little bit, and that's a good thing.
Can I just interrupt you, Dan? So the 28, is that 5 open positions, or you anticipate adding 2
No,
staff? Those are open positions.
They're open positions, but they're budgeted. They're in the
Gotcha.
budget. We
Okay.
carry them.
Thank you.
And that is about it for me. Couple of things to note. Like I said, if you look at the year-to-year increase in our operating budget, it's about $940,000. It represents like a 9.5% increase, but if you take out those 2 lines, we're less than 1%. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we kind of needed that build-up for leachate. We're very happy to have it and very happy that the town allows us to go out and find opportunities like that to be able to move that water. And the $80,000 going into salvage items is money well spent, as you can see. Any questions?
No, thank you.
No problem, thank you.
The facilities budget is on page 197-21 of your binder.
Good evening again. Well, following the last 3, I feel a little inadequate here because I have a fairly short, small budget with very few changes. So to start off this year, we're going to be, we have an increase of $22,719. It's under 3% is what we're asking for. You'll find that the majority of this, a little more than half, is contractual, and then we have only one $10,000 increase to contracted services.
similar to Dan's. I'm just gonna go through the changes. And we moved some money around, so I'm gonna go over some of the reorganization that we've done as well. Starting off, we have the personnel services for the 5,100. This is the majority of the facility staff that moves between buildings. There's a $9,128 increase between department heads and the laborers. That's all contractual, as required. After that, we move on to the services. This is the major increase, is the 5294 line item, the contracted services. We're asking for a $10,000 increase from 40,000 to 50,000. And this is for an additional $10,000 for the access control annual service contract, which is part of the badge system that we have throughout the town. We are switching over to the same system the PD has, and we will be tagging on to their service contract. So with shifting the 4 town buildings that we currently have onto that, the increase to that service contract is gonna be a little under 10,000. So that's the main increase for it. Other than that, we're gonna go down to the 5,400 line item. This is the first start of the kind of what I'm gonna call the housekeeping. We have tried to consolidate and standardize some line items and account numbers through some of the sub-budgets that we have in the facilities budget for different buildings. So you'll see that we had actually closed out the janitorial supplies, the 5423, and our new standard custodial supply line item is gonna be the 5450. So we've added 1,500 from our building supplies that we didn't expend all for the past couple of years. We've noticed that there's an increase in price in custodial costs, paper goods, just more services. So we've increased that from 3,500 to 5,000. And we're gonna keep that as that 5450 account number. Going on to page 2, you will see the other increase for protective clothing, which is contractual. This is part of the just the annual protective clothing line item. Nowadays, we do not have uniform rentals. The DPW contract allows for just a more than a boot allowance, an entire protective clothing allowance for all the staff members. Going down further, we will see that the police station, we've taken $5,000 out of just the buildings and grounds R&M line item. And again, we've added it to we've created a 5450 custodial supplies, just for better tracking purposes for custodial supplies. So we just broke out that. There's no additional request, just splitting it off and better tracking for that one. You will also see the wages increase for the Jonathan Bourne Library, the 5117 line item. That's contractual increase for the custodian at the Jonathan Bourne Library. And that is it for the increases for the facilities budget. Is there any questions? Anything I missed?
Looks like no, thank you.
Really simple. Thank you very much.
Where that department heads go? What do they just do?
Don't they just-
I don't know, that's Marlene.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Oh, are any of the department heads want to leave? It's okay with us, I don't know, if you've presented.
Oh, yes,
information.
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
So the DPW budget is on page 420-46 of your binder. And I will preface this budget by saying Matt joined us as the DPW director, I think it was mid-November, right?
Yes.
Okay, and this budget was restructured this time last year. So when we were building the FY24 budget, the wages and salaries and the supplies and equipment were kind of reorganized between the different divisions within the DPW. So for this budget year, because we made so many changes last year, the approach was to take a wait and see year to see where things are falling out. So besides salaries and wages, which are the contractual COLAs, there aren't a whole lot of changes in this one. But Matt, I will leave it to you.
Yeah, so I kind of did a summary of the budget, because DPW budget is split into multiple sections. So as Marlene said, all of our increases are contractual. So we have budgets under DPW, Administrative Personal Services. 83% of that is the director's, as part of my director's salary. We have the assistant director, assistant coordinator of finance and contracts, and the DPW office secretary. That's 5,100 under administration. Under 5,100 under vehicle maintenance personal services, we have 4 salaries under there. And under public works personal services, 5,100, we have 2 foremen, 4 equipment operators, 8 truck drivers, 9 laborers, and the longevity under the public works is included in there. So overall, we have a salary increase of $83,989 for the fiscal '25 budget under those 3 personnel sections. We can go through them individually if you want.
I don't think that's necessary.
I do have a question though, so it looks like line 5112, you're reducing 33,690. Is some of that being put into that other line item under that you just mentioned?
Yes, I was going to mention that. There was a position that's being shifted from the administrative section to the public works section. So that's why you see that decrease in the salaries.
Okay.
There has been discussions with the accountant and myself about it. It may go back in there, but for right now, for the presentation, that's why you're seeing that reduction.
Okay.
So there's actually not a reduction in staff, it's just a moving around of staff. And we do have a decrease under the highway budget, under purchase of services, contracted services, 5294. We do have a reduction of $7,500, and that is, it's going from 62,500 to 55,000, and that's just a cost-saving measure. It's reflected of the past expenses of that line item. It hasn't, we haven't utilized those funds, that expense line item. So the overall increase to the FY '25 budget is $76,489, a little under 3%. Any other questions on the DPW budget?
No.
And then I can touch on townwide fuel. I know Marlene and I discussed it. Do you want?
Sure. Actually, let me point him to the right page. So townwide fuel is on page 489-55 in your binder. And this is another one where last year when we were building FY '24, if you remember the volatility in the fuel markets, we really increased this line quite a bit. I think it was 20% for FY '24. And then this year, we're taking a little bit more of a wait and see approach. And at this point in the budget cycle, aren't recommending any increases to townwide fuel. Are there any questions on that one?
Looks like no.
And then snow and ice is on page 423-53. Matt, I'll turn it over to you.
So the snow and ice budget is staying the same at $338,000. In FY '23, we spent $349,598, but we're not going to increase it this year. That will, as long as we don't decrease the operating budget, we can deficit spend the snow and ice, if I quoted that correctly.
Yes, and the snow and ice budget, we look at how to fund this based on the 5 past years. So there's a rolling average of the previous 5 years. And if that 5-year average starts creeping up above the 338, then we would recommend budgeting or funding this budget at that 5-year average mark. But right now, the 5-year average on the expenditures is under that mark still. It's at 299, 150. So we do want to budget realistically for snow and ice removal.
Any questions?
Then we can move on to the sewer budget.
Sewer budget, okay.
And sewer is at the back of your binder again, by iSwim in Enterprise. And it's on page 442-1.
So a few of the changes to the sewer budget, it's a little shorter, so we can go over the changes. In personal services, part of the director's salary has been added to the sewer enterprise fund budget. So that's 13% of the director's salary has been added, so into personal services. And then there are contractual increases to the laborers and the administrative secretary, which I believe that's a partial, also like the director's salary, that's a partial,
Yes,
partial of a.
That's correct. The administrative secretary for sewer is funded 25% out of the sewer enterprise and funded 75. Do I have this the other? Michael's shaking his head. Is Maria 25% sewer and 75% TA? Yep. Okay. Sorry. So that is a shared position between the town administrator's office and the sewer department. So that is reflective of 25% of her salary.
And then in purchase of services, 5,200, there was a decrease of $10,000 in electricity based on historical trends. In services, waste removal, 5,318, there's an $11,038 increase to that. That is actually the contract with Wareham for the IMA. That's what that money's for. So that's a contractual increase also based on the IMA agreement. The capital assessment is going down this year, which is from, we are paying off $188,000 of the capital assessment in FY '24. So that's where you're seeing that reduction in the capital assessment under 5,700. And then there's a few other changes in the permanent debt service based on the debt service calculations we have. So you're seeing an overall decrease in the sewer budget of $178,537. There is a reserve fund for the sewer department of $100,000 that is also not included in the budget, but that's part of the sewer budget.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can you just explain the reduction in the long-term interest? Why are we going down? But the principal's going up, but long-term interest.
I'm gonna let Mike answer that one because we were.
Does Erica, or do you want to handle it? Michael or Erica?
So the long-term interest, part of that is the SRF loan, which is a much lower interest rate than other debt. And the final piece of the sewer truck is falling off this year. And we were working with some estimates in the past, so we have more finalized numbers in fiscal '25.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the sewer budget?
No, thank you.
Then the next department is finance, and that begins on page 130-6. And I will, before I turn it over to Erica, I will say that the finance director employment agreement was renegotiated for FY '25. and that market adjustment in her salary is reflected in this proposed budget.
Thank you, Marlene. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Erica Fleming, the finance director for the town. So the finance department is actually comprised of 3 segments or functions. We have accounting, assessing, and treasury/collections. We have a total FTE of 11. There have been no changes in FTEs for fiscal 25. But what you will see is some differences is where funds are allocated in personnel. 84% of our budget is for personnel costs. So in September of last year, we reorganized the department a bit, and we decided to unfund the assistant town accountant position and create a payroll analyst position. So you'll see some movement or reduction rather in personnel on the first page under the accounting section. You'll see a negative 61,746 because that's being moved down to the treasurer collector section. The remainder of the budget again, so all of this is salary, personnel, wages and changes, contractual obligations. And then if we move through the budget, we also moved the payroll services, contracted services from the accounting section down to the treasurer collector section because we process the payroll. In the assessing section, which is on page 130-7, that's where you'll see the meat of our expenditures, if you will, non-salary cost for consultants, assessors, and that's for PK, who is our evaluation software that takes care of that. But other than that, it's a pretty basic budget, a 4.75% increase overall from the prior year, and again, majority of that's due to contractual salary obligation. I'm happy to entertain any specific questions if needed.
I'm sorry, Erica, the contracted services, that's the IT program that you use?
Yeah, so we have consultants, PK, they assist with our valuation of properties, and it integrates with our other financial data, or financial software rather. And depending on if it's a revaluation year, that could fluctuate from year to year. So you'll see, if you look at 2023, the cost was $88,000. That was budgeted because it was a revaluation year. So
all right,
you'll see some flux in that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, and I will do the town administrator's budget, which is on page 123-4 in your binder. And there are 3 full-time positions in the town administrator's office, 1 part-time administrative secretary, and then the position that we talked about, which is 75% funded out of the TA's office and 25% funded out of the sewer office or budget. All of the salaries are contractually increasing per either individual employment agreements or CBAs, and likewise the longevity is contractual. I am trimming some of the costs in the TA budget for FY25 in order to meet our targets, to keep us at not to exceed a 3.5% increase on the town sector services. So you'll see that I'm reducing $10,000 for recording secretary assistance. So the TA's budget covers recording secretary wages for many boards and committees. So that's something that we'll monitor and we'll watch, but at this point is going to be proposed to be reduced. Likewise, I'm reducing the contracted services line by $5,000, And I will note that when you look at the previous year's expenditures for that line especially, there have been encumbrances carried year from year. So the budget is not necessarily being overspent, but the encumbrances are not showing up as part of the appropriation. So sometimes with these contracted services projects, they carry over from one fiscal year to the next. So those monies are encumbered and come forward. It just doesn't show up in this particular report. But I'm reducing that line, or proposing to reduce that line by $5,000. And likewise, I'm proposing to reduce the travel line in the town administrator's budget by $2,000. And this travel line is for use for multiple departments, or if people are traveling out of state for larger conferences, or we need to book flights or hotels. So it's something that, to keep us within our targets, I'm proposing to reduce. So overall, the town administrator's budget is pretty much proposed to be a 0% increase for FY25. I'm happy to answer any questions.
It looks like there are no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is our budget. Those are the budgets that we were prepared to present to you this evening.
Thank you. So for the next item, discussion about the process for committee members to become more familiar with budget. We have some new committee members. I'm new as a chairperson, and we just wonder how individual members get information, or what would be the best way to do that. If they wanted more information, should they go to the chairman necessarily? Do they go to the town administrator rather than go to any other department directly? And I don't know if the members have any questions or ideas about this process.
I'd like to speak.
Go ahead.
So I did go to that yearly finance committee meeting, and they recommended that we visit the different departments, like for example, the recreation department, to talk to them and kind of get an idea of what their needs are, so that we have a better idea when we make our recommendations for budgetary issues, or, we as specialists in other parts of our lives may be able to advise or, give ideas. So is there an appetite for that, for the finance committee members to kind of do that? I mean, go on a field trip, or I don't know what it would look like, or go to the pickleball courts and see what shape they're in, or...
Amanda?
So personally, I like these open forum discussions. I understand your point, but maybe if we could ask standard questions to all the department heads, what are their needs? Is that being accomplished with the proposed budget? Obviously, others have input into what they may like, and there could potentially be cuts to what they are asking for originally. So I think that's fair to ask them. We could have standard questions for each department. I think it's beneficial for all of us to hear the questions and the answers, so we can, as a committee, be informed and bring our own perspectives to it, versus maybe one person sitting down and getting some additional information that maybe doesn't come to a meeting. There could be repetitive questions, or, there could be good points made that the rest of us are missing. I like this open forum. I think we could accomplish that with maybe some preset questions.
Sure.
Is my thought on that, but I don't know what others think.
I'm not sure that, in terms of visiting departments or whatever, I'm not sure that's our responsibility to make recommendations, is it? Or is our responsibility to review the numbers and the budget for any changes?
Yeah, our responsibility is to recommend approval or not
Mm-hmm,
to town meeting.
mm-hmm. But in terms of going to departments and coming up with whatever changes or recommendations for that particular department, I'm not sure that's our job, is it?
Would it be,
I'm not sure what you really
yeah,
meant by that.
I think I mean, just for me to just look at numbers, I like to get an eyeball on things and see what is really going on. It's more like information gathering, I think, to verify what we see in the numbers, so that I'm not just looking at a screen and saying, okay, 500,000 for a vehicle, okay. I kind of want an idea of what is the need and what do their current situation look like. Yeah, so I think that was what I was thinking of. Or to kind of understand a predicament, if they were had a short budget one year, what was the actual reality of their situation? That kind of thing.
So Marlene, do you have a sense of whether it be feasible or appropriate for individual members to interact with individual town employees to get some more perspective?
So typically, because you're a committee, you have to act as a group, which is why we tend to organize the meetings this way. So as a resident, as a town meeting member, you can obviously request information from department heads. If you're acting as the finance committee, it's important that all of you hear the same information and can base your deliberations and your decisions based on having the same information. So my concern with if people start splitting apart and having individual one-on-one conversations, you may be hearing different information, and then it's hard to pull that all back together. It's also very difficult the town has a small staff, and it's very difficult to expect a department head to have serial conversations with individual members. So I would need to really understand the structure of this before I could evaluate whether I think it would be a good idea or not.
Yeah, sure, I understand. Understood. Maybe I'll reach out to some of the other finance committee folks that suggested that were at the meeting, see what it looked like when they did their discoveries. So,
Yeah,
If I could,
but I understand.
I'd also be interested to understand their structure. Maybe how their town operates is different than ours, and we still have the opportunity to review that budget in advance. I know we'll soon be receiving hard copies, but we had an electronic copy, so as we go through that in preparation for the meeting, if something stands out in a request and we want to know more information, we always still have that opportunity to request it, not directly. Historically, we've gone through the chair. So if I had questions about a particular item, I would say, Jim, could we have more information on X, Y, and Z? He can forward all of our questions to, say, Marlene, and Marlene can coordinate with those appropriate, contacts, whether
sure.
it's a department head or someone special in the department that needs
Right.
to answer that, so they can bring that as part of their presentation.
Yeah, that's a good idea, yeah.
So we still have that
Yeah.
opportunity to ask questions, to investigate further, and then that way it brings it back for everybody as well. So we're all on the same
Yeah, I
page.
think it's too late for this budget, but, just in general, it's nice to really know what the numbers mean.
Is there a reason why we do everybody at once? Would it be more valuable to have more shorter meetings, but more intense meetings with one particular department?
That wasn't everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot to go.
right.
And what? We will be meeting every Monday really till mid-April unless it's a holiday.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I would think everything to be directed to you, and then you could contact Marlene and see just what's feasible. Otherwise, I think it would just be chaos for Marlene and her staff to try to do that if people aren't going, we are a committee, as was mentioned, and I think it really needs to be directed through you. And I like the open forum and the way we've been doing it, but I think any individual request, so that you know what's going on, comes that way. Just my take on it.
Thank you. Any more discussion about this? And we could come back to it later, but any more discussion now?
Jim, can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
So sometimes, and we'll see a good example of this tomorrow night, possibly with the select board, sometimes where there is, I'm gonna say disagreement or differences of opinion about what any a particular department should be focused on, or what their priorities should be, we kind of, rather than, we kind of set those aside and work out a separate process on how to come together on the same page with those. And last year it was pretty obvious, this time last year it was pretty obvious that there was a lot of differences of opinions about what the recreation department should be focusing on. So Liz and the recreation committee, so there's an entire advisory committee devoted to recreation. They've been working over the past year with the recreation department to, over multiple workshops very intensely to figure out what their priorities are. And they're gonna be presenting that to the select board tomorrow night. So I think generally the departments are, very aware of what they need and where they stand. But sometimes we do have, whether it's because of changes in staffing or changes in the community's desires or changes in a committee membership, if we need to change direction, that we pull those aside and treat them as special cases rather than having every committee who might just be, working on in a more status quo situation, putting them, all the departments through that intensive process. And a lot of times these conversations happen around the 5-year capital plan and not necessarily the operating budget. So when we put, and the capital planning is something that we are, we're still kind of building our structure around that so that we are looking farther out in advance and we are trying to anticipate more and not be so reactive on the capital side. So we are having these conversations. They're just not necessarily as part of the finance committee budget presentation. We have them in the background before we get to you. But we're happy to talk about them.
All right, thank you. Okay, any more discussion on this? All right, thank you. And as I said, we could get back to it. All right, next, any updates from committee representatives?
Yes, sir.
Oh, hi.
Last year sometime, I volunteered to be part of the finance policy working group. I didn't know what I was getting myself into at the time. We met, I think, about 6 times. Marlene, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it doesn't matter. And we looked at the whole financial policy of the town. And there was several things we looked at: capital improvement planning, health insurance trust, reserves, OPEB, annual operating budget process, and the sewer enterprise fund. I found it all very interesting. I didn't offer very much because I'm sort of new on the finance committee, but I think next month we'll be ready to present a final recommendation to the town and to the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, rather. There was a lot of changes, a lot of important changes, I think, a lot of small changes and changing of words and numbers and basically important things that especially the town administrator needed to see. So I think the final report will be next month. Is that correct, Marlene?
Yes, we should have a final draft to share with the finance committee, the school committee, the select board, and then move forward on how those three groups want to sign on and support, or what further adjustments anybody might want to see. But yes, we're getting close to being able to share out the final draft.
And with that, that's all I can say.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for volunteering for that. All right, and we have the minutes of July 9th, for those of you who are here. If you had maybe a chance to look at this, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion on the minutes of January 9th? Okay, we have to do a roll call vote because we have a hybrid meeting. All right, all in favor of approving, well, wait, we'll do a roll call vote. Okay, so Rich?
Yes.
Thank you. Amanda?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Priscilla, you were here, yes? Jill-
I was online, I think.
Yeah, so like.
I
you
think
can
everybody
vote.
was, weren't they?
Yeah, so it was only, I guess Carlin wasn't here.
I was on.
So do you have a, do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes.
I vote yes.
And, sorry, Kath.
Carla still gets a vote, or she can abstain if she so chooses.
Right.
January 9th, I was here. It was a Zoom meeting.
Oh, that's right, I apologize. I
Nope,
forgot about
no.
that meeting altogether.
Yep,
Great. Thanks. You vote yes? Okay. So it's unanimous. Thank you. So next meeting is, is there any finance committee comment? All right, seeing none. Next meeting, future agenda items is a week from tonight, right?
Actually, Mr. Chair, I don't think the group should plan on meeting again until February 5th.
Yes, I see that. Oh, great.
You'll hear from us on February 1st about your books, and then, but we won't have the final Board of Sewer Commissioners vote until January 30th. So my recommendation is it makes sense to hold off until the 5th of February.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Rich?
Yes.
I'll just go around. Carla?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, thank you.
We're done.